Welcome to the National STEM Championship 2024. Now, last year's winner was Anglo-Chinese School Independent, but will they prevail this time around? The odds are not exactly in their favor, as there are 43 teams vying for that coveted trophy and the right to call themselves champ. Now, with every National STEM Championship, we kick things off with a qualifying round that consists of both a theory and practical components.
With only 27 teams moving to the quarterfinals, the heat is on. It's the theory component of the qualifying round, and the excited teams are all raring to go.
AC, the best is yet to be. East or West, GIS is the best.
Go RDS!
This is an individual component.
Topics range from physics to biology and from engineering to mathematics. Teams have to tackle 50 questions within 90 minutes. How do they think they did?
Sometimes when I feel that I'm very confident in what I do, it tends to be a very bad grade, and when I'm not that confident, I tend to get a better grade. This time, I'm not that confident, so I hope that I get a better grade.
I think about theory tests, when we first came in, of course, we thought on the day that it had gone pretty better than expected, pretty well. Of course, there was also some uncertainty, but nevertheless, when we walked in, we tried to forget about that, focus on the task at hand.
Held at Science Centre Singapore, teams are streaming in with a mix of anxiety and anticipation. It's time for the practical components for the qualifying round. Each team is given items like plastic bottles, scissors, wooden sticks, and a glue gun. Their challenge? To build a practical siphoning system that doesn't require a pump.
Our school was the champion last year for this competition, and of course, we feel a bit of pressure. However, at the end of the day, we're still here to have fun and do our best in this competition.
You take the formula sheet and you think of
the best siphoning system really takes advantage of a good understanding and application of differences in pressure as well as fluid dynamics.
and also we need a lot of water.
For me and him, we didn't really understand the concept of a siphon.
I was trying to remember the concept that I read 3 years ago. And I was also trying to prototype it so that I can make it more efficient and use less material.
Judging it went really well, except
the last part
where it wasn't going back up.
Yeah, and the reason was that the size was too small. If we increase the size a bit more, it could have been, it would have worked, because what we are thinking is that the pressure will push the water up and release it back here where it will go in a circle.
Despite being late, this team makes hay while the sun shines.
We tried our best to have fun.
With 25 minutes left on the challenge, it had impacted us greatly because we were rushing to this area and our heart BPM was very high, so we were very stressful and we couldn't think properly.
Wanted to stick. We probably wouldn't make it that far as our seniors.
I think that cohesion refers to the stability.
I think our chances are down to negative 50% of qualifying to the next round.
And when we are testing out, the system is not working. The water's not flowing because there's a hole somewhere. So we went to stick it. In the last 8 seconds, we managed to do it. I hope it will flow.
We changed our main prototype at the last.
I don't want to look at this.
Which teams you all think that you can remember made a very strong impression on you, that you think they should move on?
I thought that
Out of the 43 teams that participated in the qualifying round, only 27 teams will make it through to the quarterfinal. In today's episode, we're taking a look at the 15 teams in the first quarterfinal.
ACS International, Catholic High School, Anglo-Chinese School Independent, Anglican High School, DPS International School, Dunman High School, Raffles Institution, National Junior College, Nanyang Girls High School, School of Science and Technology, Singapore, St. Joseph's Institution, Sin Min Secondary School, Victoria School, Swiss Cottage Secondary School, and Zhonghua Secondary School.
To clinch a spot in the semi-finals, the 15 teams in quarterfinal 1 must do their best to overcome 3 challenges set before them. The first challenge has got to do with a fist-sized organ that pumps blood throughout our body. That's right, they have to construct a pumping heart model. So let's take a look at what is required of the teams in this challenge.
Teams are given 15 minutes to construct a pumping heart model. Each chamber of the heart has an atrium and a ventricle. The left pumps oxygenated blood to the body, while the right receives deoxygenated blood and pumps it to the lungs. Using the heart model, teams must demonstrate at least 1 cardiac cycle, which is the beginning of 1 heartbeat to the start of the next. Sounds easy? It's not when you're given limited materials or items meant to distract. Upon arriving at Nanyang Polytechnic, teams were guided to the School of Engineering. There, they waited with bated breath for their challenge briefing.
The aim of this challenge is for the students to actually model the cardiac cycle by using simple apparatus such as the water bottles and water to model how the blood flows from the atrium to the ventricles to the other parts of the body and also to the lungs.
I don't know anything of the heart.
Pulmonary vein and artery, that's what I remember.
Comes in from here, right atrium.
I think it was quite difficult because of the time constraint. We couldn't think of how to do it because we were very nervous at the time.
Here, the vena cava comes back in through the pulmonary vein.
We need 2 full bottles of water.
Why don't we just connect the straws all together?
Some of our team members have a very extensive knowledge in biology, and also we learned from our previous mistakes in the qualifying round.
It's both using water bottles, except this time we didn't really need to use the water, so there are a lot less challenges.
Right auricle, right ventricle. Below the right ventricle, we put left auricle.
The most difficult part is having to rush and be delicate at the same time.
The straw break. No, I need to check.
Just connect 2 caps together.
Yeah.
Okay, the flow of blood. So the hard part, right, was to demonstrate the double circulatory system because it's not real blood, so it can't go in a real loop. And we had limited resources also.
The heart is a pump, so basically it has to be airtight in order to effectively pump liquids through it. So in order to make our model, we had to try our best to make it look as airtight as possible, but still allow it to pump properly.
Let's pour the water in, guys.
Water's going in.
Water's going into this one.
The most difficult part was that because we are not biology students, we have to come up with the model without really having a strong foundation and knowing the proper vocabulary. So we had to resort to using some general terms to describe the parts and overall processes on how the heart works.
This straws represents the connection between the chambers of the heart.
They could not articulate the biological concepts. That's a pity.
This part will be the left atrium and the left ventricle, and this will be the right atrium and right ventricle.
His fingers are the valves. They prevent the blood from flowing in the wrong direction.
Seeing Joshua and our flaps, right? And him representing a red blood cell.
Our presentation was quite innovative. We had demonstrations incorporated into it.
There's a pressure differential, the valve opens. However, once he goes through, we close again and preventing the blood from backflowing.
One team stood up in particular, the Sin Min High, because instead of using the water bottles to model the atrium and the ventricle, they actually used the bottle to model the lungs and also another bottle to model the other parts of the body. So that was actually quite unique and creative.
When enough water gets into the right atrium, we were able to pump from this bottle to this one, which is the lung.
The right atrium is filled with deoxygenated blood from the superior and inferior vena cava.
HJI, they knew their concepts very well, which is the rubrics of this whole challenge. And they showed their passion in bio by very passionately pouring the water into their heart, trying to pump it from chamber to chamber, and caused quite a spill on the table, but they had fun.
Blood enters from the pulmonary artery.
We were stuttering at some points because we were very nervous of presenting in front of 2 real judges.
Into the left ventricle. Right ventricle.
What is the name of the 2 valves that are separating the atrium and the ventricle?
Sorry, I actually don't know.
Do you know the specific term for when the blood pushes from the atrium to the ventricle? So one question I have for you all is, you mentioned that the deoxygenated blood comes from the vena cava. So there are two. Do you know their names?
The superior and inferior vena cava.
That's very good, thank you.
Your pump from the heart to the arteries to the rest of the body and then up again.
How would you model the different chambers of the heart? Because we don't really see the atrium and the ventricles over here.
So actually, all not bio students. We were not very sure what the cardiac system was.
The cardiac cycle was. They didn't really have the 4 chambers. They are missing the atrium and also the ventricles. So in a way, they weren't able to actually model the cardiac cycle at all.
I don't think we have a very good chance.
Which side of the heart, the left atrial ventricle or the right atrial ventricle, is the one that pumps the oxygenated blood?
It should be the right atrium. No. Sorry, no, it should be the left atrium because it's the other way around, yeah.
Good save.
But there's still hope because I think our team works quite well together. Hopefully the other 2 challenges will go smoother and we will be able to get in.
The first challenge tested the teams on their knowledge in biology. Some teams impressed the judges, while others didn't. Now, for the teams that didn't do that well, it's time to redeem themselves in the second challenge.
Using A4 papers, teams have 15 minutes to build a 2-tier tower and test how much weight it can withstand before tumbling. The first tier of their tower must be a minimum height of 250 mm, while the second tier is a minimum of 150 mm. The first tier must support a cardboard of 150 mm by 150 mm. The second tier must support a cardboard of 100 mm by 100 mm. Teams have 3 minutes to show how much weight their towers can hold. The tower that holds the most without tumbling scores the highest. Designing a 2-tier tower that can withhold a load requires a good understanding and application of physics and engineering. What else would the judges like to see in this duplex resilience challenge?
I hope the kids would show me nice teamwork together in resolving the challenge.
You can put 2 pillars. They didn't specify it has to be 1.
Hoping that all the teams will be able to succeed to some extent. At least have some weights on the tower.
Let's try first.
Hope to see also enjoyment through the iteration problem solving of the challenge.
Okay.
They will be able to at least see that or have a sense that even paper, such a weak material, could take such a high load, depending on how you design.
Hey, no, the paper's falling apart.
A palpable feeling of anxiety hangs in the air as judges check to ensure that every tower assembled meets the minimum height requirement for each tier. The towers built by the teams can tumble and fall multiple times during judging. Teams can rebuild their towers and try again with the weights as long as it's within the 3 minutes given. Which teams are most likely to stand tall and proud in this challenge?
I'm sorry, Louis. It seems like I did not give you enough time and budget.
Yeah, of course.
Guys, hurry. The apocalypse is coming. We have to build a tower and stay up there.
I'm pretty sure all of you have heard about the Burj Khalifa. Well, this is his baby brother. And today we'll be explaining the physics behind this building.
The first tier, the shape, it's
cylindrical.
It looks more squarish to me.
But our idea was to make it cylindrical. Because we have already used the piece of paper, like all of them at the start, as our initial prototype, but it didn't work, so we had to replan and remake the pillars.
Yeah.
Initially, we also thought of using a cylinder. However, that would not be very feasible, as a cylinder will easily deform since we don't have any sort of way to support and keep it in the 3-dimensional shape.
Our structure was structurally sound. It was able to stand. It was able to hold like the required amount of weight.
Try it again. Go ahead and try again.
When we tested in front of the judges, it didn't go really so well compared to what we have initially tested.
We rushed too much, maybe get nervous a little bit, so we didn't put it properly together.
Okay, 300.
Some teams tried all ways and means to make their tower stand.
You guys are very creative. You actually took the measuring tool as part of a structure. It's supposed to be used for measurement.
There's nothing against it in the paper.
For measurement. What will happen if you take out that thing? You'll topple? You still have time, you can make some quick adjustment to at least make it stand.
Since our design incorporated a metal ruler and it was removed from our project at the last minute due to a misunderstanding of the rules.
This was our least satisfactory challenge as the weight bearing included 50% of the total grading towards that task.
Based on how we performed in this particular challenge, I think the chance that we make it to the semi-finals a bit lower than what we intended.
The most surprising team was National Junior College. The structure didn't look, so symmetrical. What would be rather weak on the first look, but turned out to support 600 grams, which was quite unexpected.
300. 400. 500.
600. Push it down. 600.
There were a couple of other teams that also impressed the judges.
I think it was more of a sustainability thing. We had to make the best out of the most minimum materials that were given to us.
The design was elegant, symmetrical, was well rationally explained at the very first tier with a large base which could support the maximum weight.
We were able to withstand about 1 kg. I think ours was a good model.
It's not flat.
It's not. No.
Although Zhonghua didn't do well, but they could explain why they failed. And that's good because engineering is really about iteration and learning from our failures.
Some teams may find the adrenaline rush of riding on a roller coaster exhilarating, but it's a completely different ballgame when the roller coaster tracks are made of cardboard and the mission is to roll a marble down the track from start to end. Now, will they succeed? Let's find out, but that's definitely one roller coaster I'm not going to ride on.
Using materials provided, teams are given 15 minutes to construct a roller coaster. The roller coaster must be at least 90 cm at the start, track connections must be smooth with at least 1 loop, and marbles must glide effortlessly from start to end. In this challenge, teams must assess effects of potential energy, kinetic energy, and momentum.
Your challenge will be 15 minutes. We will start in 3, 2, 1, go.
The students were given cardboard and they had to build a marble run from that. They had to start from 90 centimeters with the highest elevation and they had to create 1 loop minimum.
We have to make ridges so that the power doesn't fall out.
Then it just loops here.
Okay, do you think we can do 2 loops?
I think we can make it a bit bigger.
For our team strategy, right, we decided to allocate 2 minutes for discussions before we actually get started on the materials and building.
3 minutes.
So we make longer and from part. For the challenge, there was lack of material, so we needed to think outside of the box.
We use a paper for the loop.
Our strategy is to finish everything by the 10-minute mark, and then we rehearse it 1 time at the last 5 minutes.
5 more minutes, last minute.
I think this challenge is the hardest, so it involves STEM. It's not just science. So I believe teams that actually does this well will be good for Singapore as a scientist.
What was most challenging for this exercise was actually to take apart not just the slope that creates the velocity for the marble, but also look at the angle where the marble actually then hits the ground before it goes into the loop.
The main problem was we had to work with cardboards. It was very difficult to fold the cardboard because it's so hard.
We cut the sides and managed to join this and make a smooth 2 layers.
It needs to be a The time limit was not really adequate. It was only 15 minutes. So as a result of this, it was quite a rather messy process, especially the taping.
Everyone was so focused on creating the slope. It was only after like the 7 or 8 minute mark where me and Louis started working on the loop. It was already too late.
It's not stable enough.
Yeah, I just need to stick it on.
Come on, I got no time for installation.
We think that our design stands a good chance.
Good morning, judges. I hope we're going to go marvels over our presentation.
I think we did really well, and I think this prototype is really mind-blowing.
Oops.
Okay.
We also have a loop in the bottom and a steeper part to give the marble enough momentum so that it can go through the loop.
You see, it went up the loop.
So your loop is actually a loop or is it just a half a loop?
Technically, like the marble made a full loop because it went one full circle.
So if you go on a roller coaster and it just stops in the middle of the loop, you still make the loop, right?
Yeah, you.
To build a longer ramp towards a lower ground is.
We really struggle with time management here, so the things we wish we could do better is create a border which can keep the marble on track.
How do you design the loop? Example, the size. What is our consideration when you actually design the loop?
We wanted it to be 15 cm in radius.
Why?
So at first we were trying to make the loop small, but I think maybe it will be too small, so we decided on 15 centimeters.
Singming School, their marble run did not work, and they had problems, I think, articulating why and answering our questions. And I think they just didn't allocate time initially to decide how they're going to present us. So their presentation just wasn't, as high a standard as the other teams.
Today I will show you a new plan for an amusement park roller coaster ride.
In terms of the content knowledge and the theory, we are able to apply and explain well. But however, for the practical part, we are unable to get the marble successfully to go through the loop.
As you can see, due to budget cuts, our safety railings are not really installed yet, but we hope to get them installed soon.
I think this probably stems from them trying to overanalyze and doing a lot of calculations rather than trying it out a bit. Did you try out the marble run before you came in?
No, we didn't have enough time.
Have you tried it before?
We didn't have the time to do so. I think we tried it once.
Did it work?
No.
We believe the first place currently is taken by Catholic High, which is followed closely by Raffles.
It does go through the loop. It's quite hard to...
Oh, nice! Oh, yes.
So, what did the teams think about their experience in the first quarterfinal?
It was a really fun experience and we think it's really worth a try.
Although we're a bit disappointed, we're still hopeful. I like to think that we have a pretty good chance of getting into the top 16.
We are very confident.
Very confident, very confident.
The 15 teams in the first quarterfinal have been tested on their STEM knowledge, application, time management, and team dynamics. Now, 12 new teams will face 3 exciting and mind-bending challenges in the second quarterfinal. Join me next week as we find out which one of these teams have what it takes to make it through to the semi-finals of the National STEM Championship 2024.